I told you don't leave. Welcome back. We're just in and out like a sky. This time across the pond, more local here. North America, Xbox and PS4 in a reverse order. PlayStation going to be up first. Invictus versus Has-Beens. Later on, we'll take a look at Elevate, beat up E-Storm, if that's the way it goes. So Invictus and Has-Beens should be an interesting one. Yep. I think Invictus, well, I know Invictus have been 2-0, and Has-Beens, well, they have a 1-1 record, but that's a little deceptive. This is a really strong team, and that loss was pretty close.
And with the way things have been going, I expect this to be a good showcase for Has-Beens, but Invictus at this point are kind of showcasing whether or not they are the team, right? Heating Up was the team. Can Invictus kind of take that role away? Which is
why I'm so excited for this one, Gore, because I think that Invictus has absolutely kind of set the table to sort of be the guy, but they need to pass the test to get the black belt, right?
Yeah.
And Has-Beens also kind of need to pass the test to see where they lie. Are they a middle-of-the-pack team? Are they going to be a number 2? Are they the new... Has Invictus become Heating Up, and Has-Beens... There's so many questions that we're going to ask, and I feel like most of them can be answered in the next possible 5-game set.
And a lot of success, obviously, being found from TKO. This was one where, again, you kind of let the draft maybe get out of your hand.
Yes.
But with the way the team has been playing, I think we've seen some of the more consistent play from Invictus than I think we see out of some of the other teams. Like, I feel like Flashpoint is always up there, but even though they lost a member and they had to bring in Richie for week 2, they didn't really miss any strides. They kept taking the same speed that they were during the entirety of the qualifiers.
Which is super important, because that to me really tells me that the team itself is strong. We see a lot of different approaches. Sometimes there's one guy up in front and 4 support players like Slopodopoulos and his crew. Other times there's just 4 players as a unit. Flashpoint comes to mind, right? Neither are better or worse approach to the game. It's all in your strategy. And so when I look here, I kind of want to see what type of strategy these players are going to bring out.
And, I mean, when you're going up against a team like Has-Beens, I think you have a good chance to kind of, I want to say, showcase your own strengths, but there is still, I want to say, the upside for Has-Beens, which is the fact that they've just been a solid team.
Well, we'll see which map we wind up on here as we take a glance. Warders Gate, Serpent Beach, Bright Marsh, and Jaguar Falls are banned. Interesting. We finally get to see Frog Isle.
Finally comes through, finally gets played. And that's one of those things. Actually, the most interesting tidbit about Flashpoint to me is the fact that they always ban Frog Isle.
Yeah.
But I've seen so many good highlights of them playing on Frog Isle that it still kind of blows my mind. I knew the reason for it like 6 months ago, and I've completely forgotten.
Well, I'll take a shot in the dark. Frog Isle is sort of the base map.
Yeah.
Everyone has a good Frog Isle. So if you're confident in your secondary, your tertiary, and even your, what's the word for 4th level?
4th theory.
Yeah, there you go. Even if you're confident in your deeper level strategies, or especially when you're confident in your deeper level strategies, rather, you can forego that easy stuff, right? So you get rid of it. He's Googling it right now, and he's going to pretend like he created it off the top of his head. But that's the way you want to approach the game. Create an uneven playing field. Our bands are out here. Invictus going to take away the Grok of the Talos, so more DPS minded. Whereas across the way, the Has-Beens will focus on the front line. We've got no Torvald and no Grover, which leaves us with a first pick Vivian.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I should have known this because it was quaternary, and I know about quaternions. Like, that's a whole thing I had to learn about. I had a class on things like that, so I should have known the answer, but I didn't. Either way, doesn't really matter because, you know, how often am I going to use that in the future?
Probably
I know
the next time I'm on the desk.
at least 30 seconds now. I'm going to forget it by the time we come back.
Well, Ash and Victor, far away from quaternary picks. They are absolutely primary selections. Ash, one of the premier point tanks that you can select, just sits right up on there. And Victor, he's Victor.
That's probably the best way to kind of close that up. The thing I want to know and want to see is Has-Beens just cause more trouble for this Vivian than I saw in the last set. That was like one of the things that kept standing out. Wildcard got so much utility, and it was just because he would walk. Like, there were points I even said he's shotgun blasting. Like, he put the LMG in their back, and people still weren't looking at him.
Well, I think Inar's a great look right there, first and foremost. Identify where Vivian's shooting from. Put up a wall, no big deal. And Maldamba also going to have the long-range stuns. So you've got some options here to kind of cut what Vivian's doing. And that's exactly what the Has-Beens are going to look for. Invictus rounding out their draft here. They've got Vivian, Saris Khan, And Barak and the long-range Kinessa will be the selection here.
I like Kinessa on this map, and I like the fact that they pick her last, just because this gives you a lot of utilization. Like, having the Vivian, Victor has to kind of look in multiple areas, but unfortunately, now it can be pretty much true and true, Victor, Vivian, and then Strix, Kinessa fighting each other. Whoever happens to win the boxing match in the two typically helps the other win their fight.
Yeah, you can't pick two of the same characters here in Paladins, but this is as close as you're going to get.
Pretty much.
Invictus and Has Been. Similar characters, very different teams. Dolson, Nick, take us away.
Game 1 on its way. Frog Isle on his way as well. Finally getting it to come out here today. My favorite map to watch, mainly due to the Froggy Boy up there, the little fountain.
Shout out
some water. Shout outs to the Froggy Boy. But Invictus coming in real fast, real aggressive, very good team. They're on a hot streak right now. They're looking to keep their spot at the top, and then on the opposite side, the team that's looking to make a statement here today.
Yeah, I think the Death said it best. You can't pick the same character in Paladins competitive. No mirror matches. But Strix and Kinessa obviously is one thing. This comp in general is like as close as you could get to the same composition. Ooh. Victor versus Vivian, Kinessa versus Strix. You've got the Ashe versus the Khan, the Daba versus the Saris. The closest thing, or the furthest thing I guess I should say, is the Inara is going to be superior to Barak on the point. But other than that, everything else is pretty square.
You know me. The only way, if I'm ever playing Paladins with you guys, the only way that I ever actually make my presence felt to their team is if I'm playing one of these snipery champions, which is really weird considering they're actually pretty difficult to play. You gotta have pinpoint accuracy, but having two of them on my favorite map, 99% already in climbing. Has-Been's off to a hot start, and that was off the back of just a couple kills.
That is damn near mathematically as fast as you could possibly capture a point. In Paladins, they come straight out of the gate, and they really leverage their own advantage, their only advantage, Dave, which is Inara, right? They get straight onto the objective. They don't lose the fight. She's been there the whole time, a minute 30 on the clock, and there we have it. We have first bloods that come out, much later than a minute and 30 seconds.
Right, and I think there might have only been a couple kills in that, and Has-Been's just rolling so well right now. And you saw the Strix. They talked about this on the desk. He was able to find some damage. I don't know if he was able to actually clean up any of the kills there early on, but he found the damage. He was able to get one kill. But yeah, look at that. Only 3 kills in this game so far, and the payload's already halfway there. Invictus just on the back foot, just being out-positioned at the moment. Falcon doing his best on this Victor to keep the damage out as well. Keep that damage close range, rather than keep it all on the snipers. But this side is going to be the battleground, at least for the moment. The Khan going to get into the face of the Ashe. Commander's grab, up and over she goes, into the face of the Vivian. Oh, but a nice Dread Serpent gets her running away. TKO Ghost drops on the backside as a result, but Has-Been's looking very strong right now, looking to get this payload pushed through.
The amount of ragdoll that you die with after being shot by this very low damage weapon is very, very funny to me. But aside from that, we got to see a great angle on what's going to be a big win condition for Invictus. If Khan can Vortex grab somebody and whip them and throw them over their head into the Vivian, then they're going to be stunned for another 2 seconds. That is an immense amount of damage that Vivian is going to be able to deal in that time frame. So one way you can get this fight over with is if Kinessa is blasting a couple of headshots and managing to find her own picks, but that Khan into the Vivian spray is another very, very potent win condition for Invictus.
You got to peep at the ultimates as well. You got 4 up for Invictus, 1 up on the side of Has-Been. Some of those will be coming up shortly here. Strix's ultimate maybe not as impactful as some of the other ones, but Invictus certainly have the tools here to pause out this defense. The banner gets slammed down by Ashe on the backside, going to keep herself alive. Khan is her target, but he's going to keep himself alive with that shield, but he could be falling on the backside pretty soon. Where to Guap? So that's a healer now down for Invictus. So nobody to keep them up and healthy, at least at the moment. Richie JBC on the Vivian, finding himself 2, potentially finding himself 3, but the Strix is going to back himself off. But they don't really have time to back off here with 4 seconds left. They got to get somebody touching it. They got to get that payload moving forward. Ashe is going to fall, and that's going to result in a defense for Invictus. So what was a hard fought, a very quickly fought first point there for the Has-Beens. Invictus able to find a good defensive stand and tie it up 1-1.
And that's just going to be the way this goes, right? Whether it's Victor, whether it's Vivian, whether it's Strix, whether it's Kinessa, whichever character gets to run away with this team fight is going to run away with this team fight. There's not going to be much stopping them once they get rolling. A lot of damage for Victor early on. But despite that, I think Vivian still has a very, very close amount of impact. A lot of that damage is going to come from barrages that don't get kills, grenades that don't get kills, stuff like that. Victor has a lot more ways to get poke damage out than Vivian does.
Right.
So he's able to charge that ultimate up and just like look better on the damage charts, but Vivian's damage is going to be much more likely to stick and get kills.
Yeah, and Vivian, the last set as well, Gore touched on this on the desk, but one of the more important, one of the harder to deal with champions.
Hit those.
Barrage. You're missing the shots. The barrage comes out, finally cleans him up. Barrage does hit him on the backside of it. Missing a few shots early on, cleaning up the Victor on the backside is Invictus. So finding themselves on the front foot on the point fight, actually getting some percentage onto the point this time. There was a clean 100-0 sweep in that last fight. Galaxy trying to find some shots on Strix here to potentially turn the tide. A bit of a quick scoping method that he's utilizing there. But in the meantime, Vivian's going to do her best to zone out these tanks and zone out this Victor from getting another touch onto the point, and they are going to be able to do just that. You have to look, 81% in climbing, 84% in climbing here for Invictus.
Yeah, no ults
Has-beens don't look like they're going to be able to get a touch.
Yeah, no ults to dive in with. Nothing to break this siege. It's tough. You're not going to be able to do it. I don't think straight up. I don't think there's any timeline that has-beens are able to successfully take that back unless they get a lucky pick. Someone's got to land a big headshot, particularly Strix. But the way Vivian's set up with a frontliner in front of her, this Viv-Con combo, and like I said, win conditions, baby. When that is deeply rooted on the objective with no ultimates to take it back, I just don't see a way. And of course, that's the way it's going to go.
It is the way it's going to go, and going very handily in the favor of Invictus here on this second point. 10 streak, 9 streak, 5 streak, and 8 streak for those 4 back-end members on the scoreboard up top there. So finding their stride after what was a bit of a slower start. Well, it was a fast start for has-beens, but a slow start there on the side of Invictus. Oh, nearly gets dropped off. Dashes back onto the map. Very close. This is where Nash will feel comfortable. She's got the knockback in the gun. She's got the knockback in the shoulder bash. She doesn't have the knockback for her health, though. She's going low. She is going to drop at the hands of Richie, so he finds himself 2 here, and the has-beens are getting pushed back into their base. You have the Inara who's up and able to contest, but she's going to fall as well, and it looks like Invictus, and they are. 3-1.
Really, really good stuff there, particularly from Richie and TKO Ghost. TKO Ghost moves around and sort of just boxes out. These are 2 big men going at it on the post. Moves DeMuffin Man away or just blocks the shots and allows Richie to just slip the corner, find the angle on Victor, and take out his biggest threat. Once Victor's off the field, Vivian's just free-firing, realizing nobody else can really contest me. Galaxy has not been a problem for me, and I'm going to continue to bet that he is not going to be a problem for me. I'm going to hold my right trigger down, and I'm going to win this fight.
And again, we keep touching on this, but that's something Gore brought up as well, are the has-beens going to be able to deal with Vivian in a way that we were unable to see her dealt with in the last set that we watched? And again, a bit of a slower start for Invictus. They're finally starting to find their stride, and Richie has been on the sending end of so much of this damage, so many of these kills. Obviously, his teammates supporting him as well, but making this Vivian's presence felt has been huge here. Has-beens are going to grab themselves the initial point success, 35% in climbing, but Richie, with those Sentinels out, going to find some damage. The other Shutter finding some damage as well on the Kinessa. Finds herself 2. Make that a 3rd there from Sorrow, so a clean 3 for 0 is Invictus. They do retake. Now it's their job to zone.
2 win conditions here, baby, and we got to see both of them now. Winning that payload, getting it all the way through, that was due to Vivian and Khan. However, this one is all thanks to Kinessa. She gets 2 free picks, and then you just get to see the way that changes the fight. As soon as that second pick comes through, Vivian just walks off of her strategic position and just starts holding forward at people. 81% in climbing. Dave, again, no ultimates for the has-beens past this point. This is going to be rough.
They need to find a touch, 96, 99, and they don't.
Little convergence outplay.
The Inara was close. The convergence pulls them in. Keeps them from getting the final touch, and Invictus, after I think it was like a 2-minute first point for the has-beens, find themselves
minute 30, I think.
Minute 30 maybe, a clean 4-0 sweep after that. So Invictus find their stride. Took them a minute, but able to take game number 1.
Yeah, and that can be how Frog Isle is, especially given the team that has Inara. If they win early, and like I said, they went straight to the objective and then won the fight, so there wasn't any opportunity. There was no air to breathe there. Bit of Frog Isle is how are they going to play this and how do we adjust? A bit of competitive Paladins is how are they going to play this and how are we going to adjust? Made the adjustments and they never had to kind of be answered back for it.
Adjustments to be made now on the side of has-beens, but to break down what we just saw in game number 1, let's send it back to F. and Goremizer on the desk.
Invictus come into this match with 2 wins above 0 losses, and game number 1 kind of shows how they wind up like that. Has-beens put up a little bit of a fight, but I mean, Invictus really came out swinging.
If you could only show me like the first point and a half of this map, I would tell you it's a completely different outcome than what we saw. And it was something like I was kind of blown away because I was like, I've never seen. I mean, even in the one that they lost overall up against Heating Up a couple weeks ago, it never felt like Invictus was that far behind.
Sure.
And it was like, there's only 3 kills. Like, that, I just don't understand. Like, you don't have the objective. And then they were like, okay, round 2. Let's do this, but for real this time. And that's where I think other Shutter kind of stepped up.
What I like here about Invictus, again, I was talking about the different approaches you could take to Paladins game here, and although these kills and deaths are kind of lopsided, the damage dealt was very, very similar for their 3 DPS players. And I think that's, or at least the 3 hybrids. And that's really what I'm looking at here for Invictus is, this is a team unit. So for has-beens to really answer back, they need to shut down multiple options instead of just one person.
You know, I knew he was doing well. I didn't realize he was doing 7 and 0 well, and I also didn't realize there was 10 and 2 on his side as well. Like, just the kills that are coming through, right? Richie's getting one right there, other Shutter, like being able to split that, play that the way they do. It's just been remarkable from them to make that a change. And again, an adjustment they made in the middle of the round, something that was like, man, we messed up. We got to be able to bring this back.
And that is, oh man, like I said it earlier, I think about Stush. That's a team that is after my own heart, because I think that's a squad that really elevates itself to the next level, no pun intended, looking at our next match. You've got to be able to make those changes on the go, because if the only adjustments you make are in between games with your coach and your spreadsheets, you're doing it wrong. So a great play right there in game number 1. We'll see if it carries over to game number 2. As we head over to our map selection, we'll see where the players will duke it out. And it's going to be Stone Keep again.
Again, if you're looking at maps, Bright Marsh, Jaguar Falls, Serpent Beach, Frog Isle, Stone Keep. Those are your 5, like, standards.
Right.
Those are the ones, like, every jazz band knows Take the A-Train. Everybody who plays Paladins has to be able to know these 5 maps. And that is, I think, where it comes down to is, like, if you have this in your wheelhouse, this is 1 and 2, map 3 is where this set's more or less going to be decided.
Exactly. So, I mean, has-beens here doing their best rendition of Chameleon. We'll see if they can pull it off here.
By the way.
As they pan out Victor and Grok. The Torvald a little bit more expected, as is the Talus. Grok has been interesting. I see you playing it. Because for the past 3 weeks, we've seen Grok kind of go from, why would you bring him out, to, all right, I see it, all right, I get it, to, oh no, Grok again. And so seeing him banned out here is a really interesting sort of normal pathway I think you could expect.
I think certain things in console, it's very easy to say, it's kind of like wildfire. Like, it will just spread like, Grok did well. We're gonna play Grok. Like, give me Grok. I want to try that. Yeah. Like, let's do that, but maybe better. And that's kind of like, there will be teams like a 4th place team tries something new, and then the 1st place team is like, hey, we should try that because we're just stronger.
I mean, there are popular games whose entire meta has been dictated by one single team's performance. So that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. The has-beens, halfway through their draft, they select Vivian, Ash, and Khan. And over on the Invictus side, Grover, Makoa, Bomb King, and Inara.
I like Bomb King, Inara, Makoa, Grover. That's just like, I mean, that's a lineup that normally, and I don't know why, but my mindset's going to Timber Mill. That's not really where I want to go.
Sure.
But, I mean, that's a lineup that, like, I stand behind. That is one that I would always love my team to drive into, because no matter what you pick as another DPS, you've got all the damage you need, you've got all of the support you need. But being able to look at them and say, okay, well, this is going to be a little bit more difficult. Bomb King on the controller is just kind of hard when it comes down to it. Hitting those arcs is more difficult than on PC, but the players that do it really well.
Well, we'll see how it works out. We've got a Pip. He might be weightless, but the players on has-beens certainly not. Can they bring us a win number 1? Casters, take us to Stone Keep.
Here we are in Stone Keep. Happy to take you here. Pip coming out for the has-beens, hoping to make a difference in this one. Invictus, though, off to a hot start, and they have a great lineup to have to deal with here.
Thank you for the supplementary soundtrack there, F-Dot. I mean, a legend here in the sound effects on the disc. Right. I mean, the Bomb King stickies, the Bomb King voice pack himself, a little intro music.
No, he does that. Is
there anything he can't do? I don't know what it is, man. It's a power click, and I'm going to let him have it. I'm not going to let him, I'm not going to try to run over that. Galaxy, though, he's the big storyline on the pip this time around. I think, simply put, unless he pops off, and this Invictus composition is just going to win. Evil Mojos have to be great. The AoE punish has to be stellar if they are going to have a chance.
Invictus, though, not starting things off slowly. Yeah, they're up to a 33% lead here on the point. Shutter going low, unable to find his destination with that bomb up there, but he is able to find some auto attacks here onto the Ash as well as the hook. The Makoa's low, though. He has to be careful who he's bringing to him, that he doesn't kill himself in the meantime. Neither of them dropping. Finally, the Ash does drop on the back end of the hook, on the back end of that Bomb King damage. The hooks haven't missed yet. 90% now on the point, and Invictus answering back with arguably a faster capture than there was on Frog Isle against them. So a clean 100-0 there for Invictus.
Yeah, really good stuff. You need to, as has-beens, either, I think, commit to helping your frontliners out of the situation that they're in and collapse on this Makoa, maybe burn him quickly, or all back off together, right? You need to all ride together or die together type of thing. That was taking that fight at the exact pace of Dredge Anchor cooldowns is what that felt like to me. Dredge Anchor lands, hooks somebody in, they get a kill. Khan tries to retreat up the stairs, but he waited too long, so he gets Dredge Anchored in, they get the kill. They made it very easy for Invictus in that first. Down but not out, though. That's the theme here. We caught that one, Richie. Unfortunately, you will never be able to live that one down, brother. Everyone saw that, homie.
The kill feed says Kev Falcon.
Yikes.
Our brains say Richie himself.
Manifest Destiny got that kill.
Right.
The dash distance loadout
It was
card.
the manifest destiny of that ability
to
send him off the map. Something like that. That's world history. I think that's what that means.
Yeah.
Doing a good job there, though. Yeah, increase the dash distance by 10 units. That was close. Unfortunate. Not too much to harp on. He is able to keep himself alive in this instance, though. Not before falling to Muffin Man, making his way down Drury Lane, cleaning up Richie again. So a bit of a blunder followed by a nice kill there from the side of the has-beens. Invictus trying to find some pace here. These seem to be broken fights. You know, one person goes in, gets killed, they elect to back off. Looks like they're just looking for the right moment.
And again, down but not out for has-beens. That's the theme. Anyone, I've really learned this about Vivian. I've watched her pretty closely today. Anyone that gets off the leash with Vivian usually wins this team fight. It's kind of that simple. It's it's almost that same theme as Koga. Nice little heal there is not going to be enough to spot heal Vivian alive, and now everyone else is in danger. Once they lose one, they start to really fall apart, and that's what's so scary about this Invictus lineup.
Yeah. Really just snowballed away from them. Other Shutter not missing more than one or two shots there, keeping the Ash off. As Nick calls for it, it happens. The reverse caster curse a little bit there, cleaning up NBK on the back end of that as well. So Invictus now looking to push through, find themselves a 2-0 lead. The Evil Mojo comes out, but it didn't look like it found any important targets. Whirlwind cleaning up and keeping the Invictus lineup healthy results in not only 2 kills, but a point on the board for Invictus here, so 2-0.
Yeah, really big
Vivian
stuff.
damage, yeah.
Comeback mechanic is going to be there. Damage does not win games. Far from it here today. A lot of poke damage coming out in the middle of that round. And a lot of damage that's not going to be able to stick and result in kills. I actually kind of want to take a peek here at the healing charts. I think Guap did a good job sort of staying positioned to be healing multiple people. And that being said, he was committed, right? He was committed to wherever he was probably going to die there when he was sitting out with a Nara while also tagging a couple of backliners with those heals as well. Very different story when ultimates are available. However, almost no ultimates are available this time. I think the has-beens really wanted to survive that defense and go 1-1 here, but now they have to fight basically the same fight again, except this time there's a King Bomb coming at him.
King Bomb is there if he elects to use it, so keep an eye out on that one. The other Shutter really coming alive towards the end of that last one, finding himself on a 12 streak, as well as the Grover and the Inara on a 6. That's going to be the Vivian. Here is the King Bomb. Gets blasted back initially, but going to be able to find himself a Muffin Man target. So utilizing that ultimate well, and as such, Invictus find themselves 66% and climbing here on the point. Just truly cleaning up the has-beens right now. Well-timed fight, well-timed ultimates. Invictus are rolling.
Honestly, I want to know how that first blood happened. I saw Richie get the kill, I believe.
It was.
On a Kev, and I'm just like, how? Where? This Vivian was like back corner. I'm just wondering what's that line of sight Richie's playing? How did he manage to sneak that first blood away? And I don't really care about the King Bomb at that point. That first blood was what won that fight. Vivian is such an important part of the team fight and the win condition and the success of this has-been lineup, as she has been all day long. If you pick this Vivian, you're expecting it to pull its weight in damage. And if it's getting first blooded from a weird angle, that's a big, big problem.
Right. Kev Falcon does find some momentum here. Not before Sorrow gets heaved off the map by Muffin Man, so buying themselves some time are the has-beens. But Invictus are going to feel very confident about their chances to push this one through. The hook does land onto the Vivian, so finding that target, are they going to be able to clean her up, though, is the big question. They finally do, so that's the big loss, and this is what gave them the advantage the last time, so it'll be interesting to see if Invictus elect to go heavy again on this team fight after a pick onto the Vivian, and they do. They find Muffin Man, keeping him nice and low. He's just trying to find some sort of damage, something to help out his team, but he's unable to. Shutter drops Galaxy, Invictus regroup, and are now pushing very heavily towards a 4-0 here on Stonekeep.
Boy, I tell you, Invictus really knows who butters the bread on has-beens. They are making sure that they take this Vivian out every single fight. I wager she has been the first kill of every fight this round, and it has been a really easy walk through the park for Invictus. They have 5 ultimates bearing down in this last 50 seconds and last roughly 10% of this payload push. This is going to be a tough one for has-beens to weather.
Has-beens finally get their convergence back up, but not going to be enough. The seismic crash opens up the fight. Here comes the hook. Getting in onto the con. Contesting it is the Inara, but she might be soon to fall. She cleans up. Kev Falcon finds one onto the other shutter, but 3 are now down on the side of the has-beens, and now it's just an ancient raging Makoa. That's going to be it. Pip, see you later. Invictus answering back a 4-1 with a clean 4-0.
Yeah, defeated through play there. That was not a bad composition from the has-beens. They just got outplayed. There was so many times, like for that last fight, for instance, Seismic Crash came out where, though? Who did it hit? What did it land on? I'm not really sure. I heard an Evil Mojo, and I'm kind of like looking around. I'm like, who got hit by that? Did anyone get hit by that? Where's the impact? You don't have to be watching that player's perspective. This is actually a good angle. You don't have to be watching their perspective to feel the impact of that character's ultimate.
Right. Well, Invictus firing on all cylinders right now. Moving into game number 3, let's send it back to the desk. Here's F-Dot and Gormizer.
Has been flayed and outplayed. Fantastic job there from Invictus. I love what Nick touched on there. Was composition was great. I really liked the character selection and everything, but at the end of the day, X's and O's only count so much. You've got to actually bring it to the battlefield. And Invictus did just that.
They did the thing. It was like you have the draft. The draft can kind of pilot itself to an extent, right? If you are going up in, let's say, you're first versus fourth, and fourth has no wins, they're a new team, like, you can kind of let it autopilot.
Sure.
This is a team that you have to be able to play against, and they not only brought it, but I mean, they did phenomenally when they did it. Other shutters, specifically the Bomb King, was phenomenal. Not quite beating out Richie on damage, both sitting at 59k, but about 500 less, so 1 bomb could have equalized it. But the 11-2, like the streak he was on, was ridiculous.
So here's a bigger picture question. We keep hearing, you know, Bomb King much more popular on PC, easier to play on PC, more effective on PC. Is it over?
I think so. I should just stop saying it, because every time I say it,
it's not just you. It's the entire, like, I've done my research. The entire community says it. We say it here on the desk. The players have been saying. But at the end of the day, these Bomb King players have been blowing me away.
It's the ones that are, I guess, willing to play it. The players that come through, the people like Other Shutter, like Galaxy in my mind, in my memories, right, when he played Bomb King, they're the ones that make you eat those words almost immediately, because you're like, yeah, this is harder. I wonder if he can do it. And then it's like, oh yeah, he went 11-2 and did 60,000 damage. Yeah, he can play.
Well, he's just so unique. Like I said, when we look at Victor and Vivian, and to a lesser extent Furia, they kind of do very similar things. Nobody really does what a Bomb King does. Maybe a Pip, as you just sit there and launch stuff. But Bomb King really just, you can't go in Cathedral. That's just not something you can do. You can't group up. That's just not something you can do. I mean, he denies spots the way other characters just don't have control. So I think, again, we're pretty deep in the PCL at this point. This isn't Season 1. So I think that players have learned this is a unique strategy. It's an effective strategy, and they've forced it into their play pool, for sure.
And the fact that he comes through and I think provides so much, and the fact that he was kind of missing from, created a void, right? And it's like, where do we go? Who do we use to fill it? That's where we did see some players kind of picking up Drogo, some players picking up Pip, but it kind of felt like for a long time, blasters were like a no-no. on console. And then now you have those guys who are pulling out the Drogos, they're pulling out the Bomb King, they're making it look good, and they're showcasing that it doesn't matter if you're playing on a controller that's different, you can still have that kind of performance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different playstyle, as I said. The players have been very used to XYZ, but that doesn't mean you can't adapt, overcome, and change. We see the Bomb King coming through. We'll see the maps coming through in just a moment as we move on to game numero 3. Frozen Guard. Can the has-beens do it?
Frozen Guard's another one. I mean, of the two ice maps, it's definitely my preferred ice map, but I mean, it's good for Bomb King if you want to run it. It's good for Zen, it's good for flanks, it's good for snipers. Like, this is one of those few maps that's really kind of unique that because of the layout, you can kind of change your draft depending on how you want to go. I feel like what we've seen lately, kind of a DPS with a flank, double frontline support, like that's probably what I would prefer the most on this map if I'm playing it. But you can bring a Strix, you can bring a Kinessa. Leon does really well here. Things like Vivian and Victor are obviously going to do really well so far, and I'm not surprised to see them get banned away.
Which is, I think this makes a lot of sense, because a Frozen Guard map, when you're talking about maps or placements, that this is team dictation. What Gormizer just kind of covered is the fact that you can bring multiple approaches to this map. You're not locked into a particular play style. And Invictus right here has proven themselves to be the stronger team in their mind the past 2 games. So with thinking of that, they're saying we'll pick an open field because we're the better team, and that will allow whatever approach we want, and we have confidence in our approach to the game. Our raw approach will be better than their raw approach, and that's why we see such an open map selected.
And I love what has-beens have been doing mentally. I feel like everything about their playstyle has been pretty fine. It's just some of the drafts are getting out of hand pretty quickly.
Sure.
And I feel like Grok Makoa is one of those out of hand really quickly. Like, it's not completely gone yet, but it was definitely a slippery start, and you're making sure, trying to get your feet back under you. Leon Grover kind of helps balance themselves out, but it's whether or not they can hold on to it from here out is really kind of on my mind.
Well, the first half of the draft all done. Grover, Barrack, Leon here for HB, Invictus across the way, Grok, Makoa, and Saris. Ash will start the secondary half, and then HB rounding off with another tank in Khan. And Bomb King again, baby. This is the Galaxy choice that we were talking about.
And honestly, this is funny, because if it is him playing it, this is the map that I remember him playing it on. That always comes to my mind, because I can't remember the exact call Evan had, but I mean, he was throwing Hail Marys, essentially. Like, he is just cross-map throwing these bombs wherever he can, and they were connecting.
Like a tomahawk trick shot.
And that was very much in the... He's the only guy who played Bomb King, and it's like, nobody plays Bomb King, and this guy's hitting these ridiculous shots. Like, where did this come from?
Well, is Bomb King enough to keep it? We'll certainly see. Invictus up 2-0, trying to round it out. Nick, Dawson, take us away.
Frozen Guard is the battlefield here for map number 3. Has-beens looking to start off the reverse sweep. Invictus trying to keep them where they're at and make it a clean 3-0. So, do you think the Bomb King's enough, especially on a map like Frozen Guard, to turn the tide here?
I definitely love the character, like I said.
Right.
If they had this draft on Jaguar Falls, I would sign it their way right now. The fact that it's Frozen Guard does concern me a little bit. Range is Bomb King's biggest limiting factor.
Right.
That being said, the Invictus composition isn't necessarily great from range, and also is probably going to do better fighting in a clump. So I think Bomb King actually can do well on this map, just because of the composition that Invictus have drafted.
Well, neither team off the bat getting on to the point just yet. Looks like the Barrack is going to make his way to it eventually, and neither team losing a member just now. Sorrow finally drops on the back end of it. He was very low. Finally getting cleaned up. Kev Falcon, Galaxy finding one for themselves as well, and now the roll is going to begin. So the Bomb King does find himself 2. Galaxy finds himself 2 as well, I believe. And then Invictus, clean 3-0 sweep. And in the meantime, the Barrack was on the point, so you're already at 75%. You get a good zone here. This one could be over.
Yeah, so they kind of won that fight 4v5 in a sense, because Barrack was on that point almost the entire time. We have seen so many 1 minute 30, 1 minute 40-second captures in these first rounds. So at least whoever comes out with their best foot forward has certainly finished the fight that way as well. Frozen Guard is going to be awkward down the stretch, because neither of these teams can really contest great from range. Leon is sort of the only one who's like that mid to long range character who can survive at that range, and,
sure.
and it's just not even her wheelhouse necessarily. So you're going to see this fight happen here around this underpass where everyone can be in their damage fall off effective wheelhouse, and this is likely where this round will be won or lost, because if you die here convincingly, you won't be able to get your feet underneath you again before this payload is knocking at your door.
Well, the payload stalls out thanks to a nice double kill there coming out from Richie. So Invictus at least starting off their defense on the right foot. They still have a minute and a half left, about halfway to go here, but you said it best. I mean, this is sort of where the payload is kind of won or lost. Depending on how long it takes you to get through here, you may not even have enough time to get it into the Invictus base, but Has-Been's not wanting to give up. You got the barrack, the dome shield getting charged up rapidly, gets himself shielded off from some of that Ashe damage right now, and they're just kind of poking at each other back and forth. The Has-Been's lineup wrapping up and through that back line there. You got to watch out for the Leon damage. She's definitely going to out-damage you from that far back. King Bomb getting used, finds a target, but the Tempest is going to answer it back, and he goes low as well. So TKO Ghost finally cleans up Kev Falcon. Galaxy cleans up Richie JBC. So 1 for 1 on both sides, and the Tempest being the difference maker on that backside engagement.
Rock just putting his belly button in Bomb King's face. You trying to play this game? What? Where you going? What's up, man? What's good? You trying to play some video games? No, not today. And the best part is because the Tempest damage, it ticks for like 200 every half second. It's like very paltry damage. He would be doing higher DPS if he literally canceled the ultimate and just started triggering
just more annoying than anything.
It's so funny though, just to see a Grok sit in someone's face like that. Does end up winning the fight at the end of the day. Bomb King is certainly going to be flustered after a play like that. Hook to the high ground, and a Dome Shield will come out in response.
Dome Shield answers back, trying to keep himself alive. Invictus on the back foot, at least for the moment. They do lose the other shutter, so that's a big loss for them on their side, but only 8 seconds left. You got to be careful here if you're Invictus. You lose too many people too quickly, and this could go in. That's a clean 3-0 on this offensive push, and now they're inside of the Invictus base. You're going to have to get a touch, and it's not looking like possible right now. Ashe is going to have to jump out and try to get a touch on it. She's not going to be able to, and as such, Has-Beens find themselves their second point here on Frozen Guard.
Once it gets under the actual base of the gate, that's where it starts to feel a little bit over, and now we get to see Grok say, "What up, bro? What up?" See, this damage is so just like it doesn't matter, but it's so funny that Grok just be essentially teabagging this poor Bomb King and not letting him play the game. And another thing is, like, I want to point out this 300 IQ Dome Shield. Barrack has no mobility, so he has to use whatever he can get. Gets hooked to the high ground and says, "I'll take it, baby."
I'll take it.
Slams the Dome Shield down, and they literally win the round off of it. Never do Invictus get a chance to come back, and that's sort of what we were talking about with these closer range comps that have been drafted. Once this payload sort of breaks that main choke, which is the far underpass, and then, God forbid, once it gets into the base, it's no matter what type of comp you have, it's pretty awkward and pretty hectic to stop a payload at that point on Frozen Guard. So they get exactly to where they need to be. Shock pulses are landing on everyone, and I like this. I don't see why Invictus needed to fight so hard for this wall control when they don't have a long-range character that can actually use it.
Unfortunately, an overpower equals a dead Makoa, but it also equals 31% on the payload here. Richie JB, Sorrow finding 3 on the Ashe, playing it well, and now it's down to a lowly barrack to try to keep them from capturing it, and with the fast cap enabled, got to imagine Invictus is well on their way to their first points here.
But I love that response from Invictus.
Definitely.
They see their Makoa get overpowered away, and while everyone's like, free kill for us, they're all staring at this Makoa just trying to burn through his HP pool. When they turn back around, they see the Tempest crossfire plus 3 other people roaring at them, and it's like, oh my god, I don't know. They're up in the faces. Tyra's already melted one person. That's an incredibly high amount of DPS from that ultimate. And then when you combine the mobility that Tempest is going to give Tyra to just zip around the map and be safe, it's a great combination and a great response, and Has-Beens just kind of get obliterated by it.
Invictus certainly finding their footing, playing that fight very, very well. The hook, unfortunately, Bomb King gets caught on the door. That certainly would have been a dead Kev Falcon. He's trying to do as much damage as he can. The Ancient Rage comes out, but there's no target for him, at least yet. He is going to have to settle for the con, but a little bit of a defensive ultimate there, potentially just keeping himself alive. So not finding the impact, potentially, is the Ancient Rage that he was hoping for, but Sorrow slamming down the banner, keeping himself alive, stunning out the Grover, but he's going to get tossed right out of his zone by the Khan. A nice toss there from the Khan as well. Bomb King going low on the backside. Ashe cleans him up, as well as the other shutter finding himself two. DeMuffin Man finding himself one, but he is going to fall as well. And now it's just the barrack again This is what we saw on the point, and this is the dangerous area that you had kind of talked about. They finally broke that first choke point, and now the payload's well on its way to getting into the base of the has-beens.
I don't really know who to gas up here, whether it's Grok, whether it's just Invictus as a whole, but they're playing so well as a team. Ashe gets flipped up out of her ultimate. There's a Tempest already on its way to come bail her out. They're not giving up on these fights. A lot of times, like Overpower, you might say, oh, they're getting a free pick, it's 4v5, fight's over.
Right.
The fight isn't really over until you back off and let them have control of the map and that 4v5 scenario, right? Makoa's still alive. He's still in Khan's hand. We can still use him as a resource. He's still distracting people. Ashe has been thrown out of her ultimate, yes, but now everyone thinks she's a free kill. People are looking at her. And this Grok has been used twice now to sort of bail out or rebound these team fights, if you will, that really have looked grim from the onset.
I mean, he's on a 10 streak, so I mean, he's obviously making his impact felt. Invictus so close to getting this payload pushed through. This next fight seems to be the deciding factor. No low health bars just yet. Not a lot of ultimates available for Invictus. Has-beens does have some that they can utilize should they choose. Sorrow just trying to pour out some damage. Everyone trying to play very safe right now. Nobody wants to get hooked. Nobody wants to be. Here comes the bomb, the King Bomb. It finds the Ashe. She is going to be stunned up for a minute, but a nice shield from her. Actually, a very lucky shield. Keeps her alive for a minute. She is going to fall on the back side, though. Has-beens doing their best to stall this out. Galaxy finds one. NBK cleaned up the Ashe just prior, so that's 2 down on the side of Invictus. They need something crazy here to turn this fight over, and it's not going to be a dead Grok. It's not going to be a dead TKO Ghost on the Makoa. So it looks like the Has-beens are able to stall it out here, find themselves their 3rd point.
This is the only opportunity I'm going to have to probably roast the Tempest that I've seen. That was, I don't think, a very good one.
Right.
Because 2 people were already dead. Not only were 2 people already dead, Dave, but it's not like he tried to save them. They were literally already respawned back at the base. Like, that fight was pretty over.
Yeah.
That being said, I do definitely preach, and I'm going to stand behind my word, is that Tempest is a 4th ability, not necessarily an ultimate for Grok. He's already back to 27%, and he's got Morale Boost 3. He had literally, I don't know, 2 seconds before the slow-mo round over started, and he got that charge up. It's charging so fast at this point that it is going to be tough for him to have a bad Tempest because it just doesn't matter. It's going to be up far too often, that the cost is almost greater to hold it than it is to just pop it and smoke it if you got it.
Right. You have to be careful if you are on the side of the Invictus, rather. This could be map point here for the Has-beens. Invictus have some ultimates up and ready to be utilized. The Ancient Rage is going to be up soon, as well as the Tempest, but Ancient Rage is hard to use when you're being heaved off the map as TKO Ghost, so an early overpower from the Khan, but the banner gets slammed down here from the Ashe. She has 2 low targets in her sights. The Whirlwind comes out as a response here, and both teams just kind of bashing their heads into one another. That's 1 down on the side of Invictus. The Tempest comes out as well, trying to get himself out, but Galaxy finds 2. Grover finds 1. Has-beens are all streaking. Invictus on the back foot here, and they have to be careful. This would spell the end to map number 3 if they're unable to get a touch.
And this is where Tempest starts to really fall off hard, is when Cauterize is online. You could see how quickly he realized, I need to bail out of this. Other Shutter is just not going to have the same impact because the healing, the bigger part of Tempest, is not going to be useful anymore.
Initial confusing King Bomb does end up finding some targets on the backside of it. That's the Ashe going to be going low, but Invictus looks to have cauterize their wounds, per se, here on this team fight. Bomb King going low. He is going to drop. Sorrow finding him. So now Invictus retake the point. And with that fast cap, you imagine this will be the 2nd point here on Frozen Guard for Invictus. So stalling out what was a lost fight initially here, trying to clean it up, make it a 2-3 on Frozen Guard instead of a loss.
This might sound like kind of a 2020 hindsight comment, but Invictus, in that first fight, though they did lose it, they did a very good job at slowing it, at losing slowly, I guess I should say, because they lost Makoa almost instantaneously off that overpower. But they did a good job not getting blown up after that. The Ashe ultimate was very, very good to keep things going. I thought everyone positioned appropriately, and they didn't give up a lot of free capture. So that's really what kept Invictus, is how slow they lost that first team fight, despite being 4v5 the whole time.
Now Invictus get a 2nd chance at an offensive push here, hoping that it goes better for them than it did last time. No game to be won here for Has-beens. Just to stall out to the next point fight right now, and they're doing a good job starting things off here. The Bomb King coming alive, as well as the Grover. Seeing some good kills from him as well. So Invictus About halfway there, but they haven't really gotten to the hard part yet. They got a minute and a half left, and this is the hard part on Frozen Guard. They got to get through this initial break. Either team having a huge ultimate advantage. Invictus will have some ready, starting to come up here soon. A lot of them on the higher percentages that are not up, but Has-Been's in the same boat, at least at the moment. Oh, there's the overpower.
Yeah, that's going to be another one of those.
That's a dead Sorrow on the backside of that, and he's utilizing those overpowers so well on that side. I mean, obviously he knows his positioning well, but I think that's the third or fourth overpower we've seen where he immediately just turns and tosses them right off the map on that side. So playing well as DeMuffin Man on this con.
They're not too concerned with that because now they can say that's a slow charging ultimate. He might not have that up in the next round, and you're seeing the difference now. Other Shutter is getting blown up through his Tempest this time around. He's not able to have the free reign and stay alive because Grok does get that self-healing, that 500 a tick when he pops it, but it's just not coming through anymore. I believe it's Galaxy that's doing a good job cauterizing him and shutting him down. I'm not sure who all has cauterize on Has-Beens, but I'm almost positive that Galaxy's one of them.
Yes, it is Galaxy. Caught 3 on his side, caught 3 on the Muffin Man as well. Caught 2 now on Kev Falcon, caught 3 on NBK. So plenty of cauterizes to come through, and it's almost unfortunate watching that Grok go in on the Tempest at the end of that last fight. I mean, he had the Tempest, he flies in, and then he literally blows up, and the rest of his team decide to back off and wait. I mean, to your point, it is charged up fast. He's already almost at 60% of the way back to it, but
he can't be the spearhead anymore. He has to be the handle, the grip, the stability, so to speak, in these fights. He has to, you know, be surging a Tyra forward or something like that. He has to be maybe pushing his Makoa's Ancient Rage, giving it a ton of movement speed. He's got to use it more for the movement speed now than for the healing.
Sorrow finding himself in a bit of a weird spot there with no healing as he drops. Galaxy finding 2, and defense successful here for the Has-Beens. Again, no game for them to win there on defense, but they have 5 ultimates available going into this final point fight. So there is a game to be won for them here. Invictus hoping to tie things up with a chance at a win here on this next payload push, but they got to get through a fully ulted up Has-Beens in the meantime.
And damn, I mean, credit where credit's due. Richie kind of just went out and won that fight. He just popped Crossfire, killed 2 people, rotate in for a third. Nobody's really helping him. Nobody's really zoning for him, peeling for him, setting him up. He just kind of did that. And that's one way to do it. I mean, can you rely on that again as Invictus? Maybe. We'll see. How do things play out here with 5 ultimates available? It's likely to be an overpower off the rip. And then Invictus are going to have to respond one way or another. If they play up high on the right, like it looks like Has-Beens are going to, it's kind of harder to salvage that team fight because you know for sure Makoa's going to go off the map. He's going to die that way.
Right. Finds himself back in his favorite spot. The overpower is there if he wants to use it. Does not pop it just yet, waiting for the right time. Invictus get on the point first, but it's not going to matter. Both teams back and forth. Crossfire, you hear in the backside, starting to pour out some damage. Goes on to the Khan, who's going to go low. He is going to fall as well. TKO Ghost finds the Grover, so Invictus grabbing themselves an initial advantage in this team fight and pushed back by the Has-Beens. And here comes the Ash Banner, not able to find a stun, but able to keep herself alive, while the rest of the Has-Beens have to back off and regroup. And Invictus, 75% and likely a 3rd point here on Frozen Guard.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be it. And if I had to guess, I think Has-Beens thought, or specifically, I think Khan thought he had that Makoa wrapped up without needing overpower.
Right, it's still up.
Then the Ancient Rage got popped, and then he's like, oh no, here, because now he's seeing me. Now I can't throw him off the map. And the fight is over before Ancient Rage came to an end there, so good job from Invictus. Kind of just adjusting to how this con has been playing. They've been relying so heavily on the overpower being the catalyst from the win condition for their team fight. When they didn't have it, they looked a little lost.
Unfortunate on the side of Has-Beens there, potentially some missed timing, but Invictus looking to get their first offensive push here. Has-Beens, despite dropping, I think it was a 3-1 lead, have done a great job on defense here on Frozen Garden. Invictus has not been able to find their way through, but looking to do so right now. Some low health bars on both sides, so players having to play careful, get themselves back up and heal. But Tyra is just going to continue pouring out damage onto this Bomb King, continue to be a thorn in his side, but she has to be careful as well. She does not want to die. In the meantime, 1 for 1 on the outside. That's a Leon, that's a Grok, both down for their respective teams, so no real advantage being found just yet. NBK trying to poke out some damage onto that Makoa. Things have calmed down for a minute as Has-Beens find themselves a couple extra kills, but with 1 minute and 10 seconds left for Invictus, they have plenty of time to get back and get this fight going again. That's an overpower on Where to Guap, so that'll be down now for the next fight. but still plenty of time for the Saris to get back and get regrouped with her team there.
Yeah, it feels like that ultimate is just so I can use it this round. Basically, he'll be able to get that one recharged before the round is over, and that does provide a little bit of stagger, burn some time off the clock. There is value there, and his ultimate is not going to be key for these fights on the defense specifically. He's more looking to have that up for the point fight at the very start of rounds.
So potentially just a little bit of an ultimate advantage, just using it, trying to buy his team some space. The other Shudder drops the Tempest as well. He falls on the backside as well, but so do 3 of the members of the Has-Beens. Invictus looking to push things through here and find themselves a victory on this game and in this set, and if they stagger some of these kills well enough, they might be able to. Payload starting to make its way under that archway here. You got to watch out for the Makoa hooks. If you get pulled down to my level, you're going to die. The Commander's grab finding the Ash, but that's not necessarily who you want it onto. And this is it here. The Invictus lineup trying to find themselves a team fight win. Nobody dying. The con is so low around that corner, and the Barrack is there as well. Here comes the Ash ultimate. That's a big one. Overtime ticking away, but at this point it doesn't matter. Whichever team comes out on top is likely going to win this team fight. Invictus fighting for the game. Kev Falcon, Galaxy finding one, but TKO Ghost does as well. Ancient Rage gets popped. Going to keep that Makoa. Potentially he can pop it. He's going low. Doesn't pop it before he dies, so the Makoa goes down. But it's not over yet. You have the other Shudder contesting this payload. A low Lian on the backside, not able to clean it up. And the Has-Beens finding the defense after a bit of a back and forth fight. And you won't be sad if you're the Makoa that you didn't pop your ultimate, because you do have it now for what will be the final point fight here. Invictus or Has-Beens looking to take it.
They do have some big ones available. There is 50% on the overpower, so that is the biggest hole. And now Has-Beens have to figure out what do we want to do without having this. Now we've been fighting up on the plateau where there's a bunch of hazard zone off the side of the map. The first round, everyone fought over the wall. So if I'm Has-Beens, I'm maybe looking to go back that way, because not only do I have the better long-range composition with frankly the Barrack, the Leon, and the Grover specifically, all those characters are going to do well from that distance. No comeback mechanic, no fast caps, no funny business this time around. And it looks like they will be hugging the right-hand side fighting for that wall without overpower available. I think this is the smarter move.
Definitely keeping that in mind. Invictus does have some good ultimates ready for them as well, and the Has-Beens do also. Overpower is getting charged up, but with the big team fight loss, might not be up in time here. And Invictus grabbed the early lead here on the point, but you have the Leon, the long-range damage coming out. Finally, the Barrack gets in, drops the Dome Shield to add some contest there to the point. So Has-Beens take it back now, 21 and climbing for them. Ancient Rage does finally come out, so we see it used here. Khan is his target. Sorrow kills off the Barrack, but Tempest comes out as well. Ancient Rage times out, but not before he's able to clean up a kill from the Muffin Man. And on the backside, Rakalion dies, Ralkion dies, Sorrow cleans up Kev Falcon. Galaxy dies as well, and Invictus well on their way to a 4-3 victory here on Frozen Guard. Just need to find themselves some dismounts, keep them from getting a touch, but around the backside, here comes the Barrack, 93, 96. He's going to be able to get a touch. He does get a touch, but no Dome Shield equals 1 dead Barrack. Overtime ticking away here, all down to Khan. Don't think he's going to be able to find it. He's not. So Invictus find themselves a victory after what looked like the Has-Beens well on their way to a win here on Frozen Guard.
Yeah, I think adjustments there. That's really what won Invictus that game. And those Tempests as well. That final Tempest was really good from Grok. He does this nice little thing where he kind of goes out, he gives 1 tick of it just to give the move speed to that Ancient Rage, and then immediately he backs off and goes straight up into the corner of the ceiling just to hide from people, because he knows he's been getting blown up. So he still finds a way, gets everyone a little bit of love, everybody gets a tap on the ass as they run out into that team fight, but then he gets to safety and he doesn't die, stays alive, and continues to be effective in that fight after the Tempest.
Utilizing the kit to the fullest of its abilities equals 1 Invictus win, and equals an Invictus win here in the set as well. To break down that set and set up the next one, here's F. Dot and Gormizer.
I'm sure there's a Latin phrase I'm supposed to use right now, but I ain't got it. Invictus win the game, and sometimes it's that simple. Gormizer, this was interesting because I think that Has-Beens was able to have a couple of moments and some nice team fights, but similar to some of the earlier games, I just knew Invictus had it.
And it's that awkward position as Has-Beens as well, when you're like, you get those 3 points, and you're like, man, we're so close to closing this out. Like, even if we just get the 1 game, that's a big deal. And then you just 3 points. Next round,
So
3
rough.
points. Next round, 3 points. Like, you just have to watch as you can't fully close it out. And, I mean, obviously, it's not the damage numbers.
Yeah.
They're putting out the damage. It's just the way that Invictus play as a team.
And that's the big thing is that, you know, we always kind of return to the damage numbers because it's, I mean, that's the flashy stuff that winds up on the replays, on the replays, but it's the X's and O's and it's the teamwork beyond that. You know, you mentioned it yourself, Invictus kind of coming together as a unit.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the things, like the main note that I essentially took for Invictus for all of this, right? They picked up Richie.
Right.
Richie comes in and it looks seamless. And that's partially because Richie is a good player, as you can obviously see. But it's also just because that has to be the team environment. There's something they're doing right behind the scenes. And the thing that's making me excited about this is that we've had those teams already, but we've never had 2 in one region. We've never had 3 in one region for the console because you'll typically see, like, Heating Up. You'll recognize a lot of their names from NA Xbox, not from NA PS4. So, like, you see these people maybe making the changes depending on where they want to be, where their friends are playing, what they're comfortable with. And so you always end up with, like, this team is NA PS4, this team's NA Xbox, this is EU PS4. But then finally, it feels like this region has kind of flourished.
Yeah, pretty much, and watching it happen has been really fun. We'll take a snapshot of the league so far. 3-0 for Invictus as they find themselves, well, on fire. They trounced Heating Up quite a couple of weeks ago, so that winds 3-0 for Invictus, 2-1 for Heating Up, and the Has-Beens, and 1-2.
And I think, honestly, watching where Heating Up end up, I think at the long run, like, until these two go up against each other, it's always going to be that constant. Invictus is ahead of you, but for how long? Like, are you going to come back and are you going to just stomp them, or are you going to come back? Is it going to be contested? They are probably the most, well, heated up matchup that is going to be in most of console from what I've seen, just because, again, you have two teams finally kind of just punching constantly back at each other for that #1 spot.
Well, I mean, you're talking about punches, and right there, Invictus respond with an uppercut to the dome. Coming up next, we've got Elevate versus E-Storm. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be right back after this.
Brought to you by Skillshot, Hi-Res Studios, Evil Mojo, INAP, SteelSeries, Respawn.